What is up, music teachers? Today, we're going to be talking about how to transition to the hybrid model to create a six-figure studio, but without having to scare off committed students. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. If you have no idea what the hybrid model is, you don't know who I am. I'm Ben. So coming out of music school, I started coaching music teachers, be able to get more students. So now, along with growing this coaching business into a six-figure business, I'm helping teachers now be able to create six-figure music studios for themselves so that they can have a life where they feel secure, making the income that they want, doing what they love, but now without burning themselves out as well. So that's what the hybrid model is going to help you be able to do. If you don't know what the hybrid model is, I'll do a little recap to help anyone that's like not familiar with it. But if you do want like a more in-depth training video with that, like just let me know. I can go ahead and send you that as well. So today, though, what we're going to be doing is I'm going to cover a little bit about the hybrid model, what it is, how it helps music teachers be able to not have to feel burnt out teaching in the traditional one-on-one model anymore, but how to transition into it, what problems most teachers go through when they're making that transition, and how you can be able to avoid that and start implementing it like literally as soon as possible as well. So if you're excited, let me know in the comments. If you got any questions as I am going through this as well, go ahead and let me know as well. I can be able to answer that um, after this as well. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. What is the actual problem that we're solving? So I'll share with you my observations, talking to hundreds to thousands of music teachers inside of my Facebook group. Um, and especially over the years, I've seen like the same problems happen over and over again, especially the same problems that I experienced in music school as well. So I'll share a little bit more about my story and like kind of like what I went through. So I was back in like 2020, I was teaching piano in my music studio, but that was while being a full-time music education student. So not only did I have like all that time that you need for rehearsals, practicing, my social life, right? I had to juggle that with teaching like 20 piano students, driving and traveling to them too. So not only did I have this is like before online was uh like COVID was a thing. I had to drive to all of my students, and that took up so much time to the point where I was feeling like really burnt out. And I hear that with a lot of music teachers too, right? And it's like the hybrid model that I teach here. This is especially perfect if you are capped for your schedule. If you feel like I can't grow anymore because I can't sacrifice my family time. I can't sacrifice my personal time. I can't sacrifice my performance time as well. Like a lot of teachers go through that. So if you're feeling that you're not alone, this is the perfect video for you. Um, but I also it gets to the point now where like the deeper problem I hear with a lot of teachers is that there are students in their schedule that they don't really like teaching, right? And it feel like that burnout is not only caused because you're teaching so many students, but especially for me too. Like I was not only teaching so many students, but I wasn't excited to teach all of my students, right? There's you have some of those students who are just like, I have to teach them because I need to make money, right? Or like I wish I could teach, I wish I didn't have to teach that student because my time could be better used somewhere else. It could be either better used performing, or it could be better used like, maybe teaching a higher caliber student as well. Like those feelings right there, you are not alone with that. So if you're feeling that though, I just want to let you know there is a solution out there. And I want to be able to share that with you as well. But especially with teachers who understand that they have this problem, right? You might be like, hey, I know I have this problem. I know what I need to do, right? I need to switch. I need to get away from one-on-one teaching. I need to get into some sort of like group teaching, or I've been thinking of doing a course or something like that. You probably had those thoughts in your head, but you're probably wondering like, man, what if my students don't want to switch to this? Or what if I can't sell this? What if I can't make money off of this new model where just doing one-on-one lessons has been so tried and true, right? How do you make that switch? Well, we're going to be talking about that today. So let's talk first. Before we talk about making the transition, you have to understand like what the hybrid model actually is and what this problem solves as well. So if I were to summarize the hybrid model, and I drew a little drawing of it right here. It looks like this, and hopefully it's like flipped so that you can actually read it. But the hybrid model is really a combination of having like your coaching, having a course element to it, and a community aspect to it. Because the problem is like the main problem is that traditional way of teaching. Like this is what my piano teacher was teaching in, and she was teaching in like the one-on-one model, which I mean is really great when you're first starting off, but especially when you get to like 40 students per week, 50 students per week, right? Like what does that lead to? Well, it leads to burnout, and it leads to a point where like is the money even worth it when you're sacrificing, you're compromising the values that you have, especially with your personal time, your performance time as well. A lot of teachers too who want to switch out of that model, they they don't want to solely focus on just one-on-one teaching or only group, right? They feel like they like the one-on-one teachings, but they don't want to switch to all group because they still want that personalized aspect as well. Or maybe they want to switch to a course, but they don't want to go all in on just having a course. They also like having the group element to it or the one-on-one aspect. But more importantly, right, the main problem here, whether it's like just doing one-on-one or having a different model, their teaching model doesn't support the life that they want as well. So that's the main thing. It's like I hear so many teachers have to choose between, do I teach or do I perform? But why do we have to choose? Right? Why can't it be both? And why can't it be everything? And why can't you have a model that actually supports the life that you want rather than conflict with it? So that is what the hybrid model is supposed to do. It's supposed to like I love working with teachers with creating their hybrid models so that they have a teaching model that supports the lifestyle that they want. It doesn't so focus solely on one-on-one teaching or group teaching, but allow you to have a combination of all of those things, having one-on-one coaching, having group coaching, having your own online aspect to that, having a student community where students can help each other out. Like that is what the hybrid model is designed to do. So now switching to that, right? Figuring out what the hybrid model is, that can be as simple as just writing it all down and figuring out like what do you actually want to offer? What do you want to deliver? But now when it comes time to now making that switch, this is where the big like stuck point happens. So I'll paint the picture on like what exactly do I see here, just so you know, like am I in the situation where I'm feeling stuck? So a lot of teachers, they can figure out what their model is. They'd be like, okay, I want this to be my hybrid model. I want this to be the new way that I'm teaching, but they're too scared or too uncertain about the new model. And I've had teachers who who go all in on this model. But I've also had teachers that I've worked with that are always really scared and that have been nervous about teaching in this model as well. So there's a really big difference between those that successfully switch, but those that are still uncertain and can't sustain this new model. And the problem with that, with the second, right, is like even if you are you know what your model is and you're going to switch into it and you successfully switch it and all your students say yeah let's make the switch, the teacher that is uncertain about their new model, it doesn't sustain and they end up getting worse results as a teacher, right, because of us that uncertainty. So here's the solution here. Like not only do we have to know what your hybrid model is going to be, but it's got to be something that you feel excited about. I talk to so many teachers that feel like there's a direction that they have to go in versus a direction that they want to go in as well. Like the biggest example of this is like teachers who teach like students who are kids. And there are some teachers that really like teaching kids, and there are some teachers that absolutely like hate it. Um, and for me, like I remember going into music school and I really love teaching elementary school. And I really do. I really love teaching the little ones. And especially in my piano studio, I was mostly teaching kids. But then after teaching so many kids, I've realized that like, you know, this type of niche is it's not for me, and it's probably for a lot of other teachers, but I've learned through experience that like it's probably not for me. And I like to do more coaching rather than teaching, and the older students are better suited for that coaching model. uh, So the same thing for you as well. Like if you are I hear so many teachers being like, oh, I want to teach more of the adult students, but I have to teach kids because that's who my market has been, right? It doesn't have to be that way, right? And it's all really starts from the model that you teach in and what your offer is going to be as well, right? So you got to be able to feel excited about not only the students that you teach, but the model that you're teaching in as well, the way that you're teaching. Um, and the thing that we have to really understand as well is that like there's teachers, you might feel really certain about the model that you teach, but you might there might be something like within you that's still feeling a little scared. And the thing that I have to be able to share with like a lot of my clients is that you won't really truly feel comfortable in the model until you actually do it. So as I start to share you the frameworks on how do you actually make that transition, you have to understand is that there's still going to be a little bit of uncertainty in you if you're switching to a new model because you just maybe you haven't done it yet, right? But we learn through the experience, we learn through doing it. So what you have to do as well is as you are making this transition, set the expectations clear with your current students and set them low as well. Just make sure it's clear, being like, hey, this is a new way that I'm teaching. It's going to be better, but it's something that's new to me, something that's new to you. So just be patient. So that's the thing that's helped me making any transition in my piano studio when I used to teach was setting the expectations up front with my piano parents because that's what allowed me to do what I wanted with my studio with ease. So let's talk about this. I know like we've been probably been waiting like, okay, Ben, how do I actually make the switch? I will give you a framework on how to start this conversation, how to have the switch. So before you do this, right, what we need to do first is we need to figure out what is your hybrid model? What are you going to exactly offer to your current students to make this switch so that like maybe you're in a place right now where you have 40 students doing one-on-one lessons. How do we switch to a hybrid model so that you're not teaching as many one-on-one lessons per week? And I like to think of it like the three C's. And this is the same three C's that I use to help teachers raise their prices up as well. So you want to write these things down. It is conversation, call, and commitment. So those are kind of like the three stages. Honestly, like I create these three C's because it helps create a mental model of like what you have to do in stages. But in like at the core of it, like making the transition part is the easiest part to like actually having the conversation, doing this transition part. It's the easiest part of actually switching to the hybrid model. The hardest part though is the work that you have to do for yourself. That's why I wanted to lead with that. The work that you do with yourself, feeling confident about the model, feeling certain about it. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what you say to your current students or what you say to new students to switch to this model. It matters more about how you say it, the certainty that you have, the leadership that you can transfer to your current students. That is really what's going to get them to be like, yeah, let's make the switch because I believe in you. Like I trust you. That's the main thing. So conversation, call, commitment. Let's go through each one of those step by step. So after we figure out what we want to actually teach in, we first thing is like actually start a conversation with your students. So whatever that is, whether you send an email to your students, a text message, maybe you just talk to them in your in the lesson that you have. You got to just start off the conversation there. So you can start the conversation being like, hey, like I'm testing out something new that's going to be able to help you get to your goals faster and easier about it. um, are you open to hearing more details? So that is a really good way to start that conversation. You want to tie it back to like all these changes that you make with your studio. It's all going to tie back to the student because they're always going to be thinking, how is this going to benefit me? Like, what's in it for me? Right. Especially even if you're talking to like a parent, right? Same thing. What's in it for the parent? They're going to be thinking that. So you always want to tie back to what the students want, which is to progress, which is get better. So this new change that you're making, right? Always lead it with what's going to be best for them. And if they say, yeah, right, then just talk to them about it. Honestly, like I have a script here that I used to be able to give to teachers, but again, it doesn't really matter what you say. So I want you to be free from any constraints that you have and really just speak from the heart. Really just talk about like this new model that you're thinking about and be really excited about it. Because I used to give teachers a script, now I don't anymore. Now we really work on the mindset behind it. But when you feel really certain about this and you feel really excited about the new model, like when you start to share it, that's what's really going to make like sell them on it. It's going to make them really, really excited. So like the first step, conversation, right? The next step I mentioned that was call, but like if you're already on a call with them, like it doesn't, you've already kind of killed two birds with one stone. Or if you're already talking about it on the, if you're already talking to them about it during a lesson, like that works as well. But the main thing is like start a conversation to maybe get onto a call with them, whether that's like getting on a phone call outside the lesson, um, like on the call, like that is where you really talk about like what you're going to start doing. And what I like to do though is instead of talking about it like, hey, we're going to make changes with the studio, I always like to position as upgrades. So if you're talking to a student, be like, hey, I'm thinking about new upgrades into the studio. Like, do you want to know more about it? Right? They're obviously going to be like, yeah, tell me more. So after that, after you tell them more, what's the next step? Well, it could be a couple of things, right? One, if you are if you're making a change with like your whole studio, right? And it's more of like, and you're in a place right now where you're just like, hey, this is all or nothing. Everyone's switching to this. The main thing is getting that commitment in, whether it's like a financial commitment or it could be a written commitment, or at the very least, it could be a verbal commitment of like, yeah, let's do it. So I'll set up a few scenarios on what what I've seen my clients be able to do. So maybe you're in a place right now where you want to make the switch where you're not super certain about this, or maybe your schedule doesn't permit you to make the switch right away. Um, but there are some teachers who want to switch to the hybrid model with new students and keep the old model with current students, which is totally fine, right? It just matters about like how fast you want to make that transition. But if you're in a place where you just want to make the switch with new students, then all you need to do is just get a commitment from them, a financial commitment. That could be like the first month of lessons right then and there. But the main thing is getting a commitment, right? Don't just assume that that students want to make that switch. You got to get them to say yes. But let's really talk about like what's probably going to be more beneficial for you watching. It's actually making the switch with all of your students, because at a certain point you're gonna have to do that if you want to be able to get your time back, and especially like continue to grow without burning out. Like I want you to be able to make that switch as soon as possible as well. So talking about to your current students can be the scariest thing, because there's so many, there's so many teachers that come up to me and they're like my current students, like they don't like change, right? It's really hard to even raise my rate with them. If you're in a point where it's hard to make change, then like you don't have to raise the price when you make the switch. I have some teachers raise the price as well as they make that switch, but right now, like you're just like, you can think of it as just adding more value to them, right? Even if you have to take away some of the one-on-one lessons, you can, you know like with the new group things that you're adding in, maybe the course thing, the community, it's just extra added value that they will have at the same price. Because at the end of the day, like most teachers that I work with, they just want their time back first, right? Like some of them can't even take on any more students, are capped with their income. So before they can even grow their income, they need to get their time back. So the easiest thing for you might just be, hey, going to your students and being like, hey, we're making the switch. I'm adding in all this tons of value for you. It's going to come at you with no cost. So this should be a no-brainer, right? And all you got to do is either get like a verbal commitment or a written commitment, like a contract. Maybe it's like a new contract that you send out to your students. But no, that's really it, right? Because I'll share with you a few examples as well. Um, like I have a teacher, Julia. She has a violin studio. She had like 50 students. She's really burnt out. But now she's switching to her hybrid model. All she's really doing is just telling her students about the new model. And if they want to continue working with her new group model, then all they have to do is sign a written agreement. That's really it. And then I've also had teachers who, like for example, Tristan. Like Tristan's a piano teacher, but he was also really burnt out teaching like 30, 40 students on his roster every single week. And he came to me because he really wanted to switch to the hybrid model, but really didn't know how. But like here's the cool thing about Tristan though, like he was able to get like he was able to fill in his new hybrid model, his new adult beginner group really, really quickly, like up to 9, 10 students. And I think he's almost hitting his max at 12 for this new group model that he's launching. The thing that has helped him, like the main thing that has helped him be able to make the switch so easily and so quickly, was not anything that he particularly said, but it was the energy that he brought to the conversations with his students. Like he would just bring up, "Hey, I'm actually starting this new coaching model. Is that something you'd be excited about?" And because he was excited about it, his students were excited about it. And because he understood the value of it, his students understood the value of it as well. So at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what you say, it matters how you say it. Like I want to say that, emphasize that one more time, because it starts with us. It starts with us as teachers. It starts with us as leaders being able to work on ourselves first. So that's the main thing. Like you got to feel really confident about it. You got to have the right mindset around this model, or else it won't work. Right? It's just like any other strategy that I teach. Like I want you to be able to show up as a leader, show up as the teacher that you want to become in order to become that teacher. Right? So that's how you make the transition. It doesn't have to be more complicated than just hitting up your students, being like, "Hey, we're making this change. I'm really excited for it, and I want you to join along the ride too. How do you feel?" And most of the time, if you're really excited by it, like they will be as well. And if they are uncertain about it, like what you just have to do is say, like, "Hey, just trust me," right? Because at the end of the day, it just boils down to trust. Like they're gonna trust you to be able to lead them in the right place. The only like, but the time, like the to answer the question of like when is that gonna happen? When are you gonna make that transition? That's really up to you. It's really how fast you want to do it. And for me, I'm always going to be helping my clients make that next best decision, because at the end of the day, the question I want you to think about, especially if you're on the fence of like, do I want to switch to a new hybrid model or do I want to keep having the schedule that I want, is thinking about like what decision is going to help you get closer to the life that you want to have, right? Do you want to keep having a life where you're teaching 40 students, feeling burnt out, not having any time to practice? Or do you want to have a life where you can teach the students that you want, be able to teach in a way that you feel excited about, and also have time to perform? Like that, it's up to you. Because for me, like I want the second one, and I have been living out the second one because in our coaching, like in my coaching program, I use the hybrid model. I love the clients that I work with, but also this year has been a really big time for growth for me because I've been able to focus so much time on like my own music production. Like I feel a bigger sense of why now. Like I have a bigger reason that music is driving me now because I've been able to focus on myself as an artist. And that's been able to translate into my coaching, into my marketing really easily as well. So that's what I want for you. Um, so let's go ahead and do a little recap here, right? One, you figure out what your hybrid model is going to be. If you have any questions with that, just let me know. We can hop on a quick call and figure out what your hybrid model is going to be. But two, it's just about making that transition. And that's usually the harder part, like for most teachers, where it doesn't have to be, because teachers are focusing on the wrong thing of making that transition. They're focusing on, what do I have to say? How do I convince my students? But you got to first convince yourself that this is the right path for you. And then from there, it will translate really easily to your current clients. So other than that, if you got any questions with that, let me know. If you have enjoyed this video, let me know as well, because I want to make sure that I'm giving out all the secrets, giving out everything that you need in order to be able to create six-figure studios. So on that, I will see you in the next one and hope you've enjoyed this.